Kansas City Chiefs got chip-ins from all kinds of players to get it done against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Come away with not only a win, but first place in the AFC. We're going to talk about it all today with Matt Derrick live from the stadium post-game. Welcome to Locked On Chiefs.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Welcome in, Chiefs Kingdom, friends and neighbors, people around the world, especially you Bills fans that want to know what we're thinking. We're thinking about you right now. That's what we're doing. This is Locked On Chiefs, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day for free on every platform, and even some that I don't know about. Check out another show on the Locked On Network today. We have Matt Derrick from ChiefsDigest.com in-house at the stadium, having gone through all the post-game rigmarole to give us the inside information. Welcome back, Matt. Big takeaway on injury front. Let's start there. How is Juju Smith-Schuster?
Yeah, I mean, it was a pretty serious hit, but, you know, Patrick Mahomes mentioned in the post-game press conferences that he did talk to him. He is in the concussion protocol. That was a pretty serious hit. I mean, you don't see other players on both sides of the field coming out and taking a knee next to a guy during a game on a hit like that very often. I mean, it's when it's serious. So even though we don't have complete details of what was going on the field, I think you can be pretty clear that, you know, hey, Juju was motionless there on the field for a little while. We'll see how it progresses. I mean, he and Chris Lamons are both in the concussion protocol, and you never know. I mean, the concussions can progress pretty quickly. Sometimes they linger. I mean, there's no way to predict when he's going to be back at this point. We'll just, monitor this week and see. Largely the only other injury this team came up with was Andrew Wiley, the right tackle, left actually on the same play right after Juju's hit. Wiley left as well and went back to the locker room. Has a strained elbow. They're going to do MRI on Monday just to confirm that there's no significant damage. But now the expectation is that he should be back pretty quickly.
Okay. So set that aside.
And it didn't seem to really hamper the Jacksonville Jaguars player in Cisco, because he went back out several plays later and did another close to headshot on MVS, and MVS walked away from it. I did see that the refs talked after the game and said that it was a shoulder to Juju's head. I don't know what they were seeing, because that was pretty clear helmet to helmet.
Yeah, and that was a point that Andy Reid said that he made to the officials, was that, you don't see a guy on the field like that from a shoulder-to-shoulder hit. It was clearly contact with the head. And I was very surprised, honestly, that the officials conversed and picked the flag up as quickly as they did. Mm-hmm. Because, again, I mean, even though the officials aren't supposed to use the scoreboard replay or anything of that nature, it happens, and it usually helps them get the call right. And if they take time to think about it and walk things through, they usually get it right. In this case, they picked the flag pretty quickly, and yet the replays both on TV and in the stadium pretty clearly showed a helmet-to-helmet contact. And in a position like that, there's nothing that the receiver can do to avoid that. I don't see that Juju did anything possible, that there was anything he could do to avoid the collision. It's up to the defender. The defender was not trying to make a tackle. I mean, the defender was trying to make a big hit, and they're trying to get those plays out of the game. So there was a lot of frustration on the Chiefs side after the game about why that was not, a penalty, why the flag was picked up. And I think the officials made a big mistake. I mean, if they had just, taken a few more seconds to walk through the play, look at the outcome of it, look at the replay on the board, and talk to everybody who was on the field, I think they could have come up with a better result. Either way, I mean, Andre Cisco's getting a letter in the mail this week from the league office with his fine, because that is absolutely a finable play.
Yeah,
could absolutely be too.
The MVS one is more borderline. I mean, I could have gone either way on that one. I think it looks a lot worse coming right after the Juju play, but absolutely it could be too.
Yeah, that FedEx envelope is not going to be kind to him when it shows up. Now, that said, I think this is also a failure on the part of New York. We'll talk about that coming up on Tuesday when we know more about the situation with Juju. Let's hope that he recovers pretty well. In Juju's absence, they had to kind of respin the offense. Now, Mahomes looked pretty comfortable to me. We'll talk about him coming up. But to me, the big lift that they got was from Kadarius Toney, who I think probably got pressed into more usage, maybe not more snaps, than they had originally planned for this game because of the absence. I thought his performance was 99% on the upside. There's one questionable thing that I would like to have back myself, but Kadarius Toney has the juice, and we see that not only can he do the lateral short area quickness things that Tyreek Hill used to be able to do, but he's also got great vision, and especially on that jet sweep was able to play off of the blocks that he had in front of him. Travis Kelce with an enormous block on that particular run, and gives you that lift, that upside that I think we've been waiting for in a number of ways, Matt. Is there anything to dissuade me from being super, super happy about Kadarius Toney's contribution?
I think you should absolutely be super, super happy with what you're getting out of Kadarius Toney at this point, because it's, to me, incredible upside with everything that you could see from him. I mean, how many receivers have we seen over the years under Andy Reid come in midseason and just never factor in? I mean, and sometimes maybe that's simply because they were players who were beyond their peak and just didn't have much left. Maybe that was the case with Josh Gordon last year. But we've seen others. I mean, other guys in the past, who have come in, and even players who have known, Andy Reid's offense pretty well and haven't fit in immediately. And Tony's different. And, I think certainly part of it is the physical nature. I mean, he's at this point in the prime of his career. He's just athletic. I mean, he knows the position. I mean, there's a lot that he can do. And I think that, you're going to see him on returns. I mean, he should absolutely be returning punts, even if there was a semi-questionable trying to pick up the ball there. I can make a case for him why he might have done it, but it's certainly something that you're going to see just more and more of him. And the fact that he is working in this quickly and getting comfortable with more than just slants and jet sweeps. I mean, the fact that they're willing to put him into other positions is an incredible sign. And, Patrick Mahomes mentioned that he does feel like that not only, and one of the things you absolutely hear from everybody about Toney is just that he's a smart player, that he picks things up quickly, that he understands, everything. But Mahomes says he's coming in early and he's putting in a lot of work to pick up the audibles and everything that is part of the game plan that he's got to know. But the other part of it too is that, they said there is some crossover with the Giants, that, some of the terminology that Dable and Mike Kafka use in New York, he already had picked up and had some experience with. So that's making the learning curve a little shorter. But this was trial by fire today. I mean, he was very productive in the snaps that he got. You can see what happens when you get the football to him in space. And if they are able to maximize, just what he's able to do as far as a route knowledge and the comfort. I mean, Mahomes says he already has confidence in him, and him having that and having earned it so quickly is amazing.
Yeah. Well, and you look at what Kadarius Toney was able to do. His hop to the end zone, I thought, was a great display of what he's able to do and the way he's able to play. But then you also look at his catch along the sideline where he just skied for the ball and hung in the air, waiting for that ball to come down, and got his body in bounds, making a huge play for his quarterback. It's very encouraging what I see from Toney and what he has done so far. And then you think about what they traded away for him. It's a 3rd and a 6th. Obviously, we're not going to know about that trade for a couple of years, but right now the returns seem to be very evident that Kansas City is going to be winning that trade.
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt. I mean, and if you dare to dream just a little bit about what the upside of Toney is, remembering, you got 2 more years under team control and an option for a 3rd. If you just, replace Tyreek Hill with Kadarius Toney, and we're not talking about replacing him with Sky Moore, who I think you should absolutely still have plenty of upside for. But that suddenly is looking like, you know what? Toney may not be Tyreek Hill. He might not develop into that kind of receiver. Those guys are unicorns. But if he's going to give you that kind of production, suddenly, the haul that you got from Tyreek Hill plus getting Kadarius Toney suddenly seems like just a windfall.
I would agree with that. And I think you also have to add into the fact that when you get all this team healthy, you get Juju back, you get McCall Hardman back, those wide receivers are going to be very hard to cover. And it's going to be a lot of fun to watch as a Chiefs offense. When we get back, I want to talk about this defense because I thought the defense played very well in the first half. But today's show is brought to you by our friends over at Total Wine and More. This holiday, find what you love at Total Wine and More. With so many great bottles to choose from, it's easy to find a new favorite single barrel bourbon or the perfect gifts for everyone on your list with some help from a friendly guide. And all with the confidence of knowing you found something special for the lowest price. Find what you love what you find. Only at Total Wine and More. Curbside pickup and delivery available in most areas. Visit TotalWine.com to learn more. Spirits not sold in Virginia and North Carolina. Drink responsible. Be 21.
I love what I found on the Chiefs defense. I think the front is rounding into shape despite the lack of Frank Clark right now. That looks like, and I didn't think I was going to say this season, Matt, it looks like Frank Clark is going to be a lift coming up here and get this defense even better. What have you seen, and who stands out to you from this ballgame on the defensive front?
Yeah, I mean, hey, the pass rush production is going to stand out. I mean, the Chiefs got some sacks today, and everybody was involved. I mean, Carlos Dunlap was involved, Chris Jones, Colin Saunders, Leo Chanel gets involved. But really, it's the run defense that stands out to me most of anything. I mean, this is, a Jaguars team that ranks third, fourth in the league as far as yards per play on the ground, and of late had been just setting the world on fire. And comes in today and really produces nothing. I mean, Etienne had one good run that kind of got his average up, but for most of the day, he was averaging about 2 yards a play. I mean, even then, the Jaguars are averaging over 5 yards a carry, end up with just over 4 today, excluding, Trevor Lawrence's scrambles. And that's what the defense and the guys that I talked to after the game were most proud of. I mean, it was the run defense that they were able to play. And it's all starting up front. I mean, you're getting a lot of production from interior guys like Colin Saunders. He's kind of become more and more of a leader on this rush defense as far as what play goes up the middle. But again, I mean, I think you're seeing everybody else get involved. Nick Bolton and Willie Gay are a big part of it. You see the defensive secondary, play a role in stopping the run. So to me, I mean, you see this defense, not just, particular people, but you see everybody, all 11 guys in this defense. Run defense is a big deal to them. They're playing it hard. They're playing it well. Other than maybe a few snaps against the Titans last week, I think they've been playing it disciplined, which you have to do. And today was, I think, a great example. I mean, if the Jaguars were going to win this game, they were going to win it by putting up a big rushing total. And their running backs today gave them 49 yards. That's not much. I mean, they had some good moments in the screen game, but as far as just the pure straight, classic run game, there was nothing there for the Jaguars today.
I'm going to have to check the map, but I didn't think there was a firehouse at One Arrowhead Drive. But these guys put out the hottest back in the NFL this week. Chris, is that where you were going to? Okay.
That's exactly what I was about to say. Etienne has been fantastic the past several weeks. I watch him because I have him on my fantasy team, but he has been absolutely fantastic the past several weeks. And for them to be able to hold him to what they were able to do today shows a lot of growth for this team. And if they're able to stop the run, that is going to be something that's going to play a huge role in how far they can go in the playoffs. And as you said at the top of the show, Ryan, they are now the number 1 seed in the AFC. So it could go through Arrowhead again this year.
Yeah, while Matt was at the pressers, they went to overtime. The Bills did lose to the Vikings. I was live on RGR at the time. That was a monstrosity. Go back and check that out if you guys want to have some entertainment.
I cannot believe that fumble. Sorry.
Right.
Josh Allen on the goal line. Just how Phillip Rivers-esque.
I wish you could have seen the scene in the Chiefs locker room because Patrick Mahomes came running in after that to tell. He was first told Chad Henne, and then he was telling Chris Jones and everybody else in the locker room what happened. And eventually everybody was bringing up the game on their phone so that they could watch. It took a little bit longer than everybody thought. They didn't think that game was going to go to overtime. But there was a lot of excitement in the Chiefs locker room watching that game.
Well, and that's what I want to know about the tone. Like, the guys are obviously happy with the run game, like you said, and eyes are very much on the Bills because this is maybe something they didn't expect to have this season. You lose Tyreek Hill. You've had this string of injuries. You have 17,000 rookies starting for you, and now you're back in your old position fighting to maintain, because now you have it, the first seed in the AFC. How miraculous is that, Matt, when we take a look at the 30,000-foot view of this season, and are you surprised at this point?
I mean, maybe that's just, part of where I am at with this team and everything. I'm not surprised. I mean, I was certainly expected the Chiefs to be in this position. I was pretty bullish on where their wins might be. And certainly conventional wisdom was that the Chiefs might struggle a little bit more early in this season with the schedule that they had. But, being 7-2 at this point, is very good. I mean, especially, with you expected a loss to Buffalo, and I think anybody would have expected at least one or two other losses along the way. But hey, it does make you just scratch your head even more at that Indianapolis Colts loss, because that one just gets worse and worse by the week. And we're probably at some point just going to be wondering how in the world that Chiefs lost that game. But you know what? Sometimes maybe you need those losses to kind of wake you up, and it did with this team. But there's no doubt. I mean, the Chiefs, even with the losses that they had in the offseason and losing Tyreek Hill, when Patrick Mahomes is their quarterback, they don't feel like that there's any time they're rebuilding. It's reloading. So there was never any lack of confidence that this team was a Super Bowl team within the locker room and within the front office. It was just a question of how quickly they were going to gel. And I have been, I think, pleasantly surprised at how quickly this defense has gelled. Offensively, they probably still have a little bit to go. I think the ceiling is still there. And remember, we're talking about a team that's still the number one scoring team in the league, that we're talking about still having some room for improvement.
Yeah, and there's a big game coming up this week against the Chargers, and I'm not trying to look ahead, but the reason I bring that up is because I felt like they overlooked the Indianapolis Colts. I felt that they were looking forward to the next week's game, and they overlooked the Colts. That's why they lost, which worried me going into this game, because I think the Jaguars are a better team than their record suggests. Kansas City is the only team that beat them by more than one score, and they held the lead the entire time, the Chiefs did. So that's impressive. Patrick Mahomes played another very good game, although that interception late in the game was questionable at best, obviously. But you look at what he is doing. The last 3 weeks, he's thrown the ball for over 1,200 yards in 3 games. That's phenomenal. And then you start looking at what their record was early in the season with who they were playing. They said on the broadcast at the very end that Kansas City had played in all 8 of their games teams that had a winning record last year, and they went 6-2 against them. This was the first team they were playing this season that didn't have a winning record last year. And the back half of their schedule is starting to look a lot easier than the first half of their schedule. And let's not forget, they've won 23 straight games in November and December for the last couple of years with Mahomes starting. So this team is in a great spot to continue what they're doing.
Well, the regular listeners will think I'm just sounding like a broken record, but I mean, I continue to emphasize it. It is hard for a team to play at 100% emotional level and 100% focused every week for 17 games and then go into a postseason. And, and that's why, frankly, a lot of teams get eliminated, because they don't have the ability to maintain that discipline and emotion and focus. And when you're the Chiefs and your teams like Buffalo, that everybody circles every single week, and they're going to take their best shot, that as the Chiefs, you are going to have to win games when you have your B and C efforts and you're facing another team's A. And the Chiefs have done that. I mean, that's why they're sitting at 6-2, is because they've got 7-2, excuse me. That's why they have that ability to do that. And a team like the Jaguars is 3-7. They're 3-7 because they can't. They have to have their A game to beat anybody. The Chiefs don't. They just have to, play smart, play discipline, lean on Mahomes, because he can frankly just about beat anybody in the league single-handedly when he's at his top. And today, I mean, he will tell you that was a stupid fourth quarter interception. But other than that, I thought this was, a very, very solid, frankly, MVP worthy from performance today.
It was a very good game by him. And one of his better ones, actually. Sorry, Ryan,
yeah,
that's all I want to say.
And I want to talk about 2 aspects of it after we get back from this, as well as some of those said 17,000 rookies that actually showed up today. I got a couple of takeaways I want your guys' takes on. But first, a word from our friends and sponsors at PrizePicks. I love this game because it's so easy to play daily fantasy sports this way. All you have to do is pick more or less on a given number. PrizePicks is going to set a line. Right now for Monday Night Football, it's Jalen Hurts at 242.5 yards passing. Do you think he's going to throw more or less? That's all you got to do. Pick 2 to 5 players, put that in as an entry. You can win 10 times your money on that single entry. No competing against other people, no setting lineups, nothing head-to-head. Just what do you know about this game and what the outcomes are going to be. You can play any major sport, even the ones that aren't so major, like cricket. Dear listeners, someone explain this game to me, please. You can do this. It's easy, it's fast, it's safe, and it's currently available in 30 states and Canada. Go to the PrizePicks app in any app store or go to prizepicks.com and get signed up now with our code Locked On. That gets you a 100% deposit bonus on top of yours. Say you put $100 in, you get $100 back. You put in $5,000, you get $100 back. I'm just saying. But that way, if you use this code, you get something for it. It's Locked On at prizepicks.com. Now, a couple of takeaways, and we can just go shotgun, and then we're going to give you our game balls, folks, the best performances that turn the tide in this ball game. Matt, I will ask you this. I thought this was the most mature pocket presence we've seen from Patrick Mahomes all season. I thought he stayed in there, even though at times it was collapsing. He stuck it out, and he didn't take bail yards. I think there's probably at least 6 snaps that I saw that normally he would have left the pocket and tried to run forward already. I think that maturation and that confidence that he's displaying for his offensive line actually helps the offensive line and brought the whole offense together. Am I overblowing that?
No, I think you're right. I mean, I thought he was remarkably poised today. I think can sometimes get happy feet where he's looking to get out of the pocket before he needs to. And it was pretty clear to me early on today that he was not in that mode, that he felt pretty comfortable about the pocket and staying in there. Wasn't concerned about what the Jaguars were doing. Certainly, I mean, hey, they got some pressure on him at times, and I think he took off appropriately when needed. But this is also, I mean, this is, a very good example of, I think, today with Mahomes is just as far as his ability that when he's comfortable in the pocket and is staying in there about how he can make his progressions. And that touchdown, the throw to Toney is probably a great example of that, because Toney was, as Mahomes said, wasn't the first read on that play. He was the 5th option. It was just a matter that, Toney was supposed to be the decoy on that play. Instead, everybody went to the side of the field where, the action was supposed to go. And Toney was shouting at him that he was open. And then Mahomes just had time to find out who it was that was yelling at him and sees Toney wide open. So that's how the play happens. But that's what, when Mahomes has time and he's comfortable in the pocket, those are the kind of plays that you get.
And I want to say this really quick. I think I need to see what PFF comes up with hurries and whatnot. And that'll be something I'm curious about. But I thought the O-line played pretty well for the most part when you start talking about passes, because this defensive line with Josh Allen and with Trayvon Walker and some of their other pieces can get after the quarterback. They got after the quarterback very well the week before beating Las Vegas. I apologize. They didn't allow a single sack, and not only that, but Kansas City doesn't look like Kansas City had a tackle or the Jacksonville Jaguars did not have a tackle for a loss on the day. So all of their plays were positive. You're going to be hard to beat.
And to me, it's especially, abundant on a bit like today when you compare it to the other side, because not only, the Chiefs get home on Trevor Lawrence and got some sacks, they were getting pressure on him plenty of times. They were making him uncomfortable. They were clogging up the lanes. I mean, there were at least 2 or 3 batted passes off the top of my head that I can think of. And they made it very difficult for Lawrence to find any throwing lanes. I mean, there were and Trevor's obviously still a developing quarterback, so you're going to see overthrows and misses from time to time. But I think that the secondary, I mean, the front 4 played extremely well, and as a result, I think that helped out the secondary quite a bit too, because you saw some good plays. I mean, I thought Snead had one breakdown on Kirk on the touchdown pass, but other than that, Chiefs played pretty tight on the secondary. And Trent McDuffie had a really good day. He maybe got beat in the first half on a play, but he made a couple of really, really nice plays on Jones in the second half.
Yeah, I was going to say the opposite. I thought the secondary allowed the front to get home because I thought Josh Williams plays pretty well. I thought Karlaftis got one of those bad passes, maybe one of the better games from him. I thought this was Leo Chanel's breakout game. I expected this last week against Derrick Henry, but I'll take it this week against probably the hotter running back. All the rookies seem to contribute. I like what you said about Trent McDuffie. I thought this proved that 3 games into his career, he is everything they expected. I think he will be exposed in some way as more film gets out there, but I think he's living up to billing. Chris, what did you think?
Oh, I thought he played fantastic. He finally allowed a reception for the game, in a game, and it is what it is. That's going to happen in the NFL. But what I was impressed with was his ability to get his head around and get his hand in the throwing lane and knock the ball out. I can't remember what receiver he was going against, but that was a huge play down the field, and McDuffie made it. And that's all you can really ask from your rookie is to be in the right position at the right time. And Matt, you have it great point about the Christian Kirk touchdown. I thought that it looked like Josh Williams and Snead were trying to switch last second, and I don't think he was set. Don't think he was ready. And you get beat sometimes. I mean, it happens.
Yeah, there were certainly a couple of miscommunications and a couple of times that I think did kind of lead to some plays, and that will happen when you have so many young guys on the field, and especially young guys in the secondary. I mean, there will be some switches that you miss. There'll be some calls that get confused. But the one thing is that certainly the coaches will tell you that they're just not seeing these guys make those same mistakes a second time, that they're learning from those. They're cutting down. I mean, I think we're seeing fewer mistakes in the secondary and fewer mistakes with this rookie class as the year has progressed, which you need to see. And, I think that once again, I mean, this group has speed. I mean, so one of the characteristics of this rookie class was bringing in guys who could run and are quick. And when you've got that recovery speed, it makes it a lot easier. And so I think that was on full display a couple of times today.
I agree. Overall, all the contributions come down to getting this win. You are leading the AFC. I know there was a lot of hubbub with the Bills, folks. That's the way that it turns out sometimes. And now we enter this stretch where you just have to maintain. We'll talk about the upcoming game against the Chargers starting probably tomorrow, knowing us, and definitely with Matt for Wednesday. But for right now, who stood out the most to you? Who gave the contribution, Matt? Who gets your game ball?
Well, I think this was a day that was won by the defense, especially. I mean, as well as the offense played, I think the defense with its performance carried the day. And who's the most dominant player in this defense right now? It's Chris Jones. This wasn't necessarily a big splashy day that you look at the numbers, but 1.5 sacks. Anytime you get that, it's a big day. You just see how much that he can dominate and take over a game and how much teams are paying attention to him right now. Other guys that are on the line making plays are able to do that right now because of Chris Jones. He's got 7 sacks on the season through his first 9 games. Remember, in his 15.5 sack season, I noted he only had 5 sacks at this point in the season in that year. So based on his performance that year alone, I mean, he's on pace for another all-pro season. And I think he absolutely needs to be in that conversation. And today's, like I said, the numbers aren't splashy, but you look at what he did on a consistent basis and the big plays that he did make. I mean, the 1 sack that he had, definitely if the Jaguars were thinking about, 4-down territory, his sack took them out of it and forced a field goal. So to me, I'll give it to Chris Jones.
I like it.
Yeah, and the right tackle got blown up on that play because Chris Jones just took him to the woodshed and just beat him. It was great to see. Matt, really quick, I know you have an honorable mention that is on another team. Do you want to mention that really quick for your game ball?
Oh, are you talking about Kansas City Chiefs legend Patrick Peterson?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, I was when Patrick Peterson made the interception to seal that game for the Vikings over Buffalo. I said, I turned to Nate Taylor, who was sitting next to me, and said that was Kansas City Chiefs legend Patrick Peterson that made the play. He just shook his head and said, "Put that man in the Ring of Honor," and I agree.
Yep, gotta love it. I had to make sure that you shared that. Thank you. I'm going to go with the easy. Yes, it does. I'm going to go with the easy one. I'm going to give it to Patrick Mahomes. I thought he played fantastic, the way he was throwing the ball. And, yeah, he led his receivers into maybe some bad areas a couple of different times. The MVS one is one I'm thinking about. The Juju one was a little bit questionable as well just because of ball placement. And usually he doesn't allow his receivers to have a chance of getting hit like that. I'm not putting it on him at all by any means. I'm just saying that generally he doesn't make those types of throws. But his touchdown passes, I mean, the throw to Noah Gray was fantastic. Leading Travis Kelce where he got the touchdown pass there. He played very well. And I will say, please, for the love of everything, please quit saying when he has streaks of like 8 passes in a row that he's completed, because the exact next ball, Jerick McKinnon drops one that's right in his hands.
You never know what's going to happen. Injuries are a factor, though, and my game ball goes to a guy that maybe wasn't needed initially, but the course of the ball game did call for him. I thought Kadarius Toney gave the spark that they needed, lest they fall into patterns and just sit around. So that's my game ball for today. I hope that you guys enjoyed this. Thanks for being here with us live. Matt, thanks for your time coming in. Folks, we will be back with you tomorrow. Matt, enjoy your evening. I think you did a great job today, and thanks for being here.
And it's a noon game, so I think the sun is actually still out here at Arrowhead. I mean, that's just uncalled. I don't know what to do with myself.
Miracles happen. Don't worry, it's going to be a late week next week.
Yes, it will.
Yes, it will. Folks, enjoy this one tonight. We'll be back with you for tomorrow to break the rest of it down, and Matt will be back midweek as we start to turn the page. Thanks for watching today. Like, sub, hit that bell on YouTube. We'll be back with you then. We'll talk to you tomorrow.